Trump has now endorsed him. There are so far, by our count, at least 4 hard holdouts so far.
He wants Republicans to set all of this infighting aside and get focused on passing bills.
Why are you not committed to Speaker Johnson as the next Speaker of the House?
The president won the election, and a lot of Republicans won because of Donald Trump.
What do you expect to happen? Do you have a name? Do you have somebody that you would like to be Speaker?
The question is, do they care more about the American people, or do they care more about keeping their seats?
Welcome back to the DeVore Darkins Show. In this video today, Trump makes a huge announcement about Speaker Mike Johnson. And also, border czar Tom Homan fires back at Jasmine Crockett over her controversial comments about him. These stories and more in this video today, but let's start with that huge announcement from Trump. Okay, so President-elect Trump posted this on Truth Social this morning. We are a party of common sense. A prime reason that we won in a landslide the magnificent and historic presidential election of 2024. All 7 swing states, 312 electoral college votes, and the popular vote by millions of voters, despite large-scale voter fraud taking place in numerous states, including California, where votes are ridiculously still being counted or under review, which I do agree with that, by the way. I don't understand why California is literally the last to be finished with counting, but okay. Listen, he gets into the whole Beyonce thing, people being paid, which I'll read that exact quote right here. Democrats are being destroyed for their effort, having wasted $2.5 billion, much of it unaccounted for, with some being used to illegally buy endorsements. For an example, $11 million to Beyonce. Whoa. Who never even sang a song, $2 million to Oprah for doing next to nothing, and even $500,000 to Reverend Al Sharpton, a professional con man and instigator who agreed to interview their star-spangled candidates, Kamala and Joe. Now, here's the interesting part as I get to the end here. The American people need immediate relief from all of the destructive policies of the last administration. Speaker Mike Johnson is a good, hard-working, religious man. He will do the right thing, and we will continue to win. Mike has my complete and total endorsement. Make America great again. And here is Speaker Mike Johnson's response on the X platform. He put, "Thank you, President Trump. I'm honored and humbled by your support as always. Together, we will quickly deliver on your America First agenda and usher in the new golden age of America. The American people demand and deserve that we waste no time. Let's get to work." And then here's Thomas Massey writing, "I respect and support President Trump, but his endorsement of Mike Johnson is going to work out about as well as his endorsement of Speaker Paul Ryan. We've seen Johnson partner with the Democrats to send money to Ukraine, authorize spying on Americans, and blow the budget. Can we repeat that once again? Partnering with the Democrats, sending money to Ukraine, and authorizing spying on Americans? No, thank you." Now, here's what DC Drano had to say. President Trump didn't endorse Speaker Johnson in exchange for nothing. You know they cut a deal and Trump got what he wanted. Motion to vacate can be sprung at any time. MAGA holds all the leverage. Now, Thomas Massey also wasn't finished. He also said this: "Let's pause to remember this moment in Congress when Mike Johnson gave the Democrats the billions of dollars they wanted for Ukraine. The House Sergeant at Arms threatened to fine me for sharing this video. That same man still works for Mike Johnson." And that's why you see other users on the platform saying every time you see Joe Biden send billions to Ukraine while North Carolina looks like the day after the apocalypse, you need to read this post and watch this video. Then remember, Trump endorsed Mike Johnson and Paul Ryan for Speaker. In other words, this doesn't really mean anything in the end. Mike Johnson could be gone at any time. And obviously, who's going to replace him at this moment, we don't know. They probably don't have a worthy replacement. And this kind of leads me to my reaction is, number one, I absolutely disagree with this. Mike Johnson needs to go, like yesterday. Let's just call it what it is. And we'll keep replacing speakers until we get it right. But to say, you know what, let's just do it this time. Once again, we know how this story is going to play out. And here's what Matt Gaetz had to say as well. Trump endorsing Johnson is art of the deal level practicality. We could never have held up McCarthy 2 years ago for concessions if a Trump certification hung in the balance. Now it does. We were able to hold up McCarthy because Republican voters weren't all that eager to see us getting back to being Biden's you know what, which Kevin ultimately did anyway. The resistance to Speaker Johnson is now futile. Let's work to make him the best version of himself, which was more like the 2023 vintage of Mike, which I disagree with, but okay. And then, of course, we have people also on the X platform bringing this point up. The state of conservative influencers is as pathetic as I've ever witnessed. They complained about immigration for a decade. Now that Elon's for it, silence. They complained about Mike Johnson for years. Now that Trump endorsed him, silence. Well, you, sir, just so you know, I've been consistent, okay? Mike Johnson needs to go like yesterday. And I don't think there's a conversation or scenario where you can convince me otherwise, because the results tell the story. He's a failed speaker. He served over the worst Congress with the lowest approval rating. What are we talking about here? Okay. And don't push that BS with, well, we need to get Trump certified. He's going to be certified. Okay. He was elected. All right. Stop with the conspiracies. Okay. So if you guys are getting value from this video, you guys know what to do. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel. If you want to support us further, go to the link in the description below, shop the merch store, or you could buy us a cup of coffee. So you guys know how I feel about it, but what about Scott Jennings? Because we know we love the work that he's doing on CNN, but I think you're going to be shocked by what he says. Check this out.
So what do you think, Scott? Will this Trump endorsement put him over the top?
I hope so, because the longer Republicans engage in this infighting, the longer it's going to be until we get started on Donald Trump's agenda. I think that's why Donald Trump came out for Mike Johnson so strongly. He wants Republicans to set all of this infighting aside and get focused on passing bills. I think he'd love to sign some bills into law right after he takes the oath of office on January 20th. So if you spend all this time or days fighting over the speaker, you leave less time for getting started on his agenda. So
Well,
I think it's going to be important.
Do you think, Scott, that the Republican Party can survive another major speakers battle like what happened to McCarthy last year?
I mean, the party can survive it. It's just why do we need to think about having to survive something when we have an obvious option here? Mike Johnson has done a good job. Look, anytime the numbers are this close, it's going to be a very difficult job, and there are things that aren't going to go smoothly every single time, and we just have to accept that. Johnson's done a good job. The president trusts him. The president won the election, and a lot of Republicans won because of Donald Trump and the agenda he put forward. So what Donald Trump is saying is, get me a speaker that I trust and that I can work with so we can begin to pass my agenda. That ought to be a good enough reason for any member of the House Republican Conference. We've got a very closely divided House. The only way to move anything forward here is to have teamwork, to stick together. Republicans need to start that process with the speaker's vote.
So, of course, he believes that that should be enough in order to put Speaker Mike Johnson over the top. However, remember, you got Thomas Massie out there who's saying he won't vote for him. And then you have this Congresswoman who's saying the same thing. And she went on CNN publicly to make this statement. Watch.
Our next guest says she is not committed in her vote for Johnson. GOP Congresswoman Victoria Spartz joins us now. Congresswoman, thanks for being with us right now. Why are you not committed to Speaker Johnson as the next Speaker of the House?
Well, I'll tell you, I look at people's track record, and unfortunately, we will not be able to deliver on President Trump's agenda, as the same happened in 2016, because it has to be done legislatively if we don't have Speaker with the courage, vision, and a plan. And if Speaker Johnson wants to be a speaker, then he needs to lay out that plan and commit to that plan, not like what he did last year. He committed on the House floor to have a fiscal commission, so we have planned for that ceiling increase, which President Trump is right about. We have no plan. He was afraid to put it on the floor. He was afraid to put budget on the floor. Except post office bill, we could not accomplish anything. So I can give him a chance, but I would like to hear from him how he's going to be delivering this agenda and what plan he has, and he hasn't been doing it.
So the better question here is, who does not support Mike Johnson? Now, there's a few that comes to mind: Tim Burchard, Chip Roy, Thomas Massie, and many others. And in fact, CNN actually gets into this because the problem that Speaker Johnson is facing is he can only sacrifice two when it comes to the overall vote. Here they are talking about that fact.
Trump has now endorsed him, so things are looking up. But he can only lose 2 votes. There are so far, by our count, at least 4 hard holdouts so far. And if you're Speaker Johnson, right, those 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people, everybody's going to know their names because they're going to wield basically all of the power on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, the question is, do they care more about the American people and getting stuff done for the American people, or do they care more about keeping their seats? Now, if they care more about keeping their seats, they'll get in line when Trump says, I need you to do this, and they'll do it. If they care about the American people, though, they will look to work across the aisle. They'll look to actually get stuff done. They'll look to do more than investigate and argue and search for porn on the floor, whatever it is that other folks were doing there. But I think
Johnson.
Not Speaker Johnson.
Because he has that app on his
maybe
phone.
Matt Gaetz. But I mean, the bottom line is, do you care more about the people or do you care more about the seat? That's what it's going to come down to.
Well, I truly believe if you care about the people, then you'd rip off the Band-Aid and stay grounded in the fact that Speaker Johnson is not the answer. Unless you have some private conversation with Trump that makes you say, hey, let's go ahead and vote him in, and then there's a plan to get him out. I mean, that's the only other scenario I can see. I'm going based off what Speaker Johnson has done up to this point, and I am just not convinced. But hey, let's see how this whole thing shakes out. Okay, now let's talk about this second story that is definitely interesting in my opinion. That is Tom Homan firing back at Jasmine Crockett. Now, remember, Jasmine Crockett, she's the one that doesn't know anything, and she clearly doesn't know what she's doing. That's why she always goes onto the news and launches personal attacks against people she disagrees with. And so here is what Tom Homan had to say about her latest attack. Watch.
I want to play you a video of Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett talking about your capabilities on MSNBC this weekend.
Again, we have someone who doesn't know what he's doing. And, this idea of, you're illegal and then you go out and have a child. It's not quite that simple, especially when you have people that are doing things like seeking asylum and people that are saying, listen, I'm just trying to make sure that I can live a better life.
Doesn't know what he's doing. Tom, just to go through some of your background, a Border Patrol agent, an investigator, a special agent, supervisor, special agent, assistant director of investigations. I mean, the list goes on and on. You are so beyond qualified. What's your response to that?
Well, look, I forgot more about this issue than she'll ever know. I mean, for God's sakes, I've been doing it 34 years. But look, there has been a rude awakening. A rude awakening was in November at the election. There was a rude awakening that American people are sick of an open border. American people are sick of illegal alien crime in this country.
Yeah, okay, so we already know that she is pathetic, okay? I don't understand why her strategy is to attack Tom Homan. It might be in her best interest to find a way to find some common ground with him. It might be actually a smart thing to take a page from Senator John Fetterman, okay? This is an issue that Democrats have lost on completely, okay? Why are you still fighting Republicans on this? You're going to lose. And of course, Tom Homan does not stop. He goes on Fox News and says this.
Under Biden administration, over 500,000 children have been trafficked in this country. They lost track of 340,000 of them. And many of these children are going to be in sex trafficking and forced labor. President Trump is committed to finding these children and rescuing these children because many of them are going to are living a life of hell every day. You know what's heartless is the politicians like Crockett and Castro who covered up the open border, who didn't ever speak up about the children of sex trafficking in this country, didn't speak up about the number of aliens that are dying crossing the border. While you and I are talking right now, women are being raped by members of the cartels as a part of the fever crossing that border. A child will die tonight on the southern border. That's heartless. And all these people are cowards.
Well, we already know that they are cowards, Tom Homan. I mean, think about it. We're talking about Congress here, right? The people that control them are the people who donated to their campaign. So they're actually slave to their donors and the establishment. So I don't really have any expectation that any people really in Congress, probably 7% of them, are never really going to try to solve this issue because it's in their best interest not to. Now let's go to this next story where CBS is repeating the same talking points that all the other media is repeating, which is that Joe Biden was mush during his presidency and they failed to report on it. I know it, you know it, everybody knows it. And now all of a sudden they're willing to admit this publicly. Let's take a look.
One of the things we also do in the year-end correspondence roundtable is dig into what was undercovered or underreported. Jan?
Undercovered, underreported. That would be, to me, Joe Biden's obvious cognitive decline that became undeniable in the televised debate.
At the presidential debate with Donald Trump.
Unquestioned. And, it's starting to emerge now that his advisors kind of managed his limitations. It's been reported in the Wall Street Journal for 4 years. And yet he insisted that he could still run for president. We should have much more forcefully questioned whether he was fit for office for another 4 years, which could have led to a primary for the Democrats. It could have changed the scope of the entire election. Yet, still, incredibly, we read in the Washington Post that his advisors are saying that he regrets that he dropped out of the race. You know, that he thinks he could have beaten Trump. And I think that is either delusional or they're gaslighting.
President
American
Biden
people.
has said repeatedly he was sick during the debate June 27th in Atlanta, and he's always been fine, and he leaves fine. That is his position, the position of many of his top aides as well, even though there is that reporting.
Robert Costa.
Yeah, I don't even know why he tried to say that towards the end there, but okay, fine. You guys live in delusional land, right? Because that's why the media continues to be in trouble, okay? If they would just truly report the facts and not their perception of it or a piece of it because they like to withhold certain information, if they just reported all sides and just let people make up their own minds, they would be trusted more and they wouldn't be on the verge of collapse, which is actually where you find the Democratic Party today. And just an example of that is Jennifer Rubin and George Conway sitting down and insulting MAGA, clearly, and Trump supporters because she can't understand why the media is trying to be fair when it comes to Trump. Watch.
Okay. Why would ABC, Disney, the mouse, who has more money than God, settle with Donald Trump?
I honestly don't know.
You know, I've asked, why would ABC? But people ask me all the time, why is the media so mamsy-pamsy? And there are two explanations. One is they are convinced that if they would just move a little bit to the right, all those MAGA readers out there, now you'll notice the contradiction in terms, MAGA readers, would pick up the Washington Post and they would have more readers. What is the logical fallacy here? Yes, reader. And there is nothing that the Washington Post could possibly do that would have those people take out a subscription. But they're convinced they're in there someplace.
Now, I don't know about you guys and where you grew up at, but I learned very early on that there's a difference between being street smart and book smart. And what you're continuing to see with their analysis of the election and Trump supporters is they're book smart. The book tells them that MAGA or whoever supports Trump thinks this way. But if they really had their ear to the streets, they'd learn that a Trump supporter is represented by every walk of life, every creed or religion. It's a populist movement. And I've yet to hear these intelligent individuals speak about that. Now, here's a question I'd love for you guys to answer in the comments section below. Do you believe Mike Johnson will be the next Speaker of the House, or will we have a Kevin McCarthy situation where they keep going on and on and on and they realize this isn't going anywhere? Let me know what your guys' thoughts are about all this in the comments section below. Now, we did talk about Joe Biden and how the media totally covered up his mental acuity and decline and how mush his brain really is. But hey, that's a whole nother thing, because yesterday we spoke about the fact that the business dealings that he denied that he had with his son and the Chinese business executives, yeah, that was exposed with these new photos. So if you guys missed out on that video and you want to check it out for yourself, all you have to do is click on it because it's coming up right now.